to the floor, right, wins this battle. And that's Sophie Cunningham. Wow, I thought Van Loo grabbed her by the neck. Sophie, thankfully and fortunately, let that one go. They both got up smiling.
After the season's most contentious defeat, Sophie Cunningham finally spoke, and her 6 words will chill you to the bone. For the second time this season, the Indiana Fever have fallen short against the Los Angeles Sparks, the poorest team in the WNBA. However, this was no ordinary loss. Their 3-game winning streak came to an end with this painful 89-87 loss, which featured foul calls, dirty plays, and Sophie being grabbed around the neck without a foul being called. She responded with a giggle and a smile. What specifically did Sophie say following the match that fundamentally alters our perception of this team's battle? If you're a fan of Sophie and the Fever, please leave a remark below with the phrase "Spicy Sophie." Come on.
We have a fun group, we have a goofy group, but sometimes you kind of need to get pissed off a little bit and dial in. I think that's what you saw today.
Imagine this. Only a few days ago, the Indiana Fever were experiencing their best season yet. They have just thrashed 3 consecutive elite clubs in the league. In a statement game, they first defeated the Dallas Wings and Paige Buchers. Then, in order to win their first Commissioner's Cup title, they completely devastated the Minnesota Lynx. The crown gem, however, was their utter dominance of AJ Wilson and the Las Vegas Aces, which had everyone discussing their possibilities for a title.
Howard looking backdoor for Mitchell, not there. Shot clock down to 7. McDonald feed inside, and it's Howard for 2.
It's good record.
Remember that Caitlin Clark has been injured for a long time. Due to a left groin injury, their superstar, who made everything work, was watching from the sidelines. She had already missed 10 games this season, and the difference was evident right away. Without Clark as the leader, the Fever's whole identity changed. They significantly slowed down. They simply lacked the ball movement that made them so dangerous. Aaliyah Boston was not receiving nearly enough passes to play in her natural manner, despite the fact that she dominates when she is touched in the paint.
This is a game that would have been great to have Caitlin Clark back in the second half. Just an extra playmaker on the court, doing the things that Caitlin Clark does. But I'm glad if it's rest or no rest. Last time she came back early, and guess what happened? She was overcompensating, being, even if she's 70, 80%, and she ended up getting another injury and being out twice as long instead of just holding off till she was 100%. And also coming back for one Sparks game.
The weird part comes next. This game was still predicted to be won by the Fever. They had a 72.9% chance of winning. According to ESPN, they were favored by 6.5 points in Vegas against one of the league's poorest clubs. This was meant to be a simple victory. The Sparks had a dismal 513 record going into this game. Clark had gone missing from the Fever. Indeed, Darius Dantas was competing in the FIA America for her nation. Even though Dana Bonner abruptly left the team, they were still required to manage the firm.
Indiana Fever fans, we came up short. We lost in the final seconds of this game, 89-87. We were up by 6 points with 5 minutes left, and also up by 4 points with a minute 4.
However, the harsh irony struck a different note. When the Sparks were playing at their best, they had already defeated the Fever once this season. They were now suffering underman against the same side that had previously made them seem foolish. The entire narrative is conveyed by the final score. 2 points, 89-87. 4 of the Fever's last 5 shots, including 4 in the penultimate minute, were missed. Only a few days ago, they dreamed of winning a title. Without their celebrity in the forefront, those hopes now seemed flimsy. However, the score was only the first factor contributing to this loss's terrible impact. The actual dispute was about to start.
We should have won this game. There was inconsistencies in the officiating. Wait until you see the second half. And I have everything.
This is where the evening took a sinister turn that infuriated Coach Stephanie White. It was a close contest. When the officials began making calls that left everyone stunned, tensions were running high. As the officials appeared to lose control of what should have been a simple game, you could sense their fury growing.
I don't get it. Breanna Stewart, Aja Wilson, wait until you see what they did for Kelsey Plum tonight. They get all the calls. Touch fouls, anything. And guess what happens? Aaliyah Boston, the best center in the game, and guess what happens to her? She gets called for every touch foul and ends up in foul trouble this entire season and is still putting up MVP type numbers. What happens with Caitlin Clark? Have you ever seen her get a touch foul? Phantom call? No. The physicality, that's the WNBA when it comes to Caitlin Clark. But anybody else, the physicality disappears. And it's foul after foul after foul in the second half.
During a loose ball scramble, Julie Van Loo seized Sophie Cunningham by the neck. This wasn't a casual encounter. This was a blatant foul that needed to be called right away. The officials were directly in front of the grab. The whistle did not, however, sound. Sophie's response was seen in real time. That chuckle, that smile. This, however, was not because it was amusing. Sophie was aware that no one was being protected by the referees.
To the floor, right? Wins this battle. That's Sophie Cunningham. Wow, I thought Van Loo grabbed her by the neck. Sophie, thankfully and fortunately, let that one go. They both got up smiling.
Perfectly, the scene painted itself. Sophie is being seized by the neck and face. No phone call. The officials were taking too long to review clean defensive plays in the interim. A superb block by Sydney Colson was initially deemed a foul. Correct a glaring error. The referees had to go over it for what seemed like an eternity. However, real fouls were not called over the entire evening.
This is what I was talking about with Sophie Cunningham. Look at this. She literally grabbed her around her neck, and they called this a jump ball, and then threw her down the next play.
These calls were made in the closing seconds, when every possession was crucial. As they attempted to end the game, they ought to have won with ease. The Fever were battling for their life. Rather, they were fighting the authorities as well as the Sparks. The pattern was starting to become apparent. The Fever have struggled with the double standard throughout the season. Not only was the inconsistent officiating annoying, but it was also risky. It sends the message that anything goes when you don't shield players from contact, as Sophie experienced. The officials appear to be giving the Sparks the advantage in calls, leaving the Fever players open to anything that comes their way.
And then threw her down the next play. And then Aaliyah Boston, like I said, she didn't touch her. They put her in foul trouble all season long. They're just calling stuff to call stuff. The refs made this game about them. Aaliyah Boston, again, she's an all-star player. Look at these hits. Good thing Caitlin Clark didn't play because it was just a sloppy basketball game between the officials and the Los Angeles Sparks. Look at this. They called this a foul instead of a block. And then there's Aaliyah Boston again. That's 3 fouls where she didn't touch anybody. And that's our best player, and wonder why we lose this game. Michaela Timpson, watch these 2 calls in a row. She didn't do anything. She got hit on that one, and they called a foul on her.
All the information you required was covered in Coach White's post-game news conference. She responded with 4 comments that got right to the core of the issue. When asked about the game's conclusion, the calls did not reach us. The general perception that the referees had unfairly affected the game was encapsulated in that one sentence. White had no justifications. She was expressing the truth.
And this is 4th quarter. Look at this. This one pissed me off. Kelsey Plum seriously elbows Lexi Hall, then purposely steps over so she couldn't get up. Lexi Hall can't believe it. That's a foul. The ref was right there in front of her. And then here we go. And they kept McDonald in foul trouble the entire game. There's 2 in a row where she didn't do anything. Look at that. Just had her arms in the air, but they gave, this is the 4th quarter. And they just kept giving every single call. I like Leah Boston finally getting pissed off. Then they call this away from the ball in the 4th quarter. Nothing going on. Just to put him at the line, and then Kelsey Plum, another one. But when Howard drives and gets slashed across the face, no foul, just out of bounds.
That evening, the officiating hit a new low. There was a glaring disregard for player safety, demonstrated by the inability to shield players from harmful contact while spending excessive time going over clean plays. This contradiction called into question all of the league's stated principles. The Fever lost a game they ought to have won because of it. Additionally, it brought attention to the persistent issue of officials treating particular clubs and players differently. However, despite all of this turmoil and controversy, many Fever players refused to allow their situation to define them. 3 Fever gamers resisted giving up the battle even as all around them crumbled. Even when the odds were stacked against them, they demonstrated the heart and tenacity that define this club. Aaliyah Boston made a major contribution with 12 rebounds and 23 points. Boston made 5 out of 7 free throws and 9 out of 17 field goals. Without Clark leading the attack, her effectiveness was just what the Fever needed. Boston produced second-chance opportunities, dominated the paint, and pulled down rebounds. She made plays that kept the Fever competitive as she was all over the floor. However, The mayhem and subpar officiating surrounding her obscured her commanding performance. She did everything correctly, but you could see the frustration on her face as the game slipped away.
Here's Mitchell off the screen, but can't connect on the three. Boston offensive rebound, rolls it in and a foul. The two bigs bring the ball up the floor, and Hamby wasn't ready for that.
How about that change of pace? That burst like a guard gets downhill to the rim.
Kelsey Mitchell scored 19 points, 3 of which came from beyond the arc, demonstrating her leadership. At pivotal times when the squad needed a scoring boost, she made 3 dash-pointers. In fact, Mitchell played in her 251st game with the Fever, ranking second in franchise history only to Tamika Catchings. That speaks much about her commitment to this organization. When it counted most, Mitchell came through with big shots that kept the Fever within striking distance.
Lob inside, Boston too far underneath, shot clock down to 5, kick out Mitchell, oh yes!
With 21 points on a remarkable 8 of 11 field goal shooting effort, Natasha Howard demonstrated her seasoned presence. Howard demonstrated her steady influence on both sides of the court by grabbing 9 rebounds as well. She made 4 of 6 free throw attempts and 1 of 2 three-pointers. When the team most needed her, Howard delivered, demonstrating her experience. During this game, she even achieved another significant milestone in her stellar career by surpassing 2,000 career rebounds.
Busted them all up. We went to the same high school.
Howard left alone, answers with a 3.
The conditions were not in their favor, yet these performances ought to have been sufficient to win. You witness outstanding athletes give it their all, only to have it elude them due to circumstances beyond their control. Every Fever fan who watched felt the emotional toll of that reality. When it counted most, the team's execution was poor. They missed 7 vital points that could have made all the difference, shooting only 12 of 19 from the free throw line. Additionally, they gave the Sparks extra possessions they shouldn't have had by committing 10 turnovers. In the closing minute, when they needed to end the game, the Fever missed 4 of their final 5 shots.
LA is so dangerous. They don't look like a 5-win team to me.
Oh, and there's Tipson, sending it back.
Even at their lowest point, these 3 players demonstrate the depth and heart of the Fever. Beyond Caitlin Clark, Boston, Mitchell, and Howard demonstrated that this team has championship-caliber talent. They should have been able to overcome everything that was against them with their combined effort. But sometimes outstanding individual efforts are insufficient. However, another person that evening personified the team's attitude of perseverance. Following everything that transpired, Sophie Cunningham eventually spoke up with 6 words that encapsulated who she was. However, you must keep in mind Sophie's experiences this season in order to comprehend why those comments struck so deeply. Do you recall the earlier this season incident involving JC Sheldon?
Sophie commits a hard foul on JC Sheldon. Again, as JC Sheldon is going up for a layup, Sophie bear hugs her and takes her to the ground. What I will say is Sophie did not grab her and throw her to the ground. She didn't body slam her. She didn't do anything, in my personal opinion. Maybe I'm biased here, but I'm gonna give you guys my straight up honest opinion on this. She bear hugged her, took her to the ground. Yes, it was intentional. It was absolutely intentional.
When things get difficult, Sophie has always taken the initiative. When teammates need someone to support them, she is the player that steps in as the enforcer and protector. Sophie Cunningham is exactly like that, which is why other players continue to target her. Julie Van Loo's neckhold was the most recent instance of a player attacking her for defending her teammates. This wasn't a chance encounter. Vanyo attacked Sophie's neck during a loose ball incident. Despite the clear foul, the referees called it a jump ball. Sophie's chuckle and smile in response. However, this wasn't because she found it amusing. Sophie was aware that she would not be protected by the authorities.
It's cool. It's funny what kind of people are attracted to. You know, I'm just trying to keep the main thing. The main thing is that's basketball, trying to win games, sticking up for my teammates. And that's all part of it. I think all that stuff it's fun and whatnot, but at the end of the day, we need to win some basketball games.
These 6 words will make you shiver. I advocate on behalf of my teammates. It's straightforward, strong, and covers all the essential information on Sophie Cunningham. Her whole identity is encapsulated in those few words. Personal metrics don't matter to her. She isn't interested in being recognized. She's prepared to take a hit to keep her comrades safe, since she cares about them. Throughout the season, Sophie has been singled out for this precise position. She never gives up though. She is the enforcer, as the players are aware. They are aware that she will intervene if things go violent. Thus, they start by attacking her. They attempt to scare her. Sophie continues to show up despite their attempts to stop her from defending her teammates by grabbing her by the neck.
I'm not focused on the extracurricular activities, and you know what? During that, it was just part of the game. I think the refs had a lot to do with that. It was a build-up for a couple of years now of them just not protecting, the star player of the WNBA. And so, at the end of the day, I'm going to protect my teammates. That's what I do.
Imagine Sophie's upbeat attitude and resilient nature, which sustained this team despite hardship. Following Caitlin Clark's injury, Sophie took over as leader. Sophie kept the spirits up while the team faltered without their best player. Sophie helped her teammates stay focused when referees made bad calls. That is the hallmark of true leadership. Compare players like Dana Bonner, who left the squad when times were hard, to Sophie's unselfish devotion just when they most needed experienced leadership. Bonner resigned on the spot. Sophie increased her level of dedication. She accepted the duty of serving as the team's pillar. Sophie is the epitome of what makes team basketball so wonderful: bravery, devotion, and sacrifice. She takes a hit to spare her teammates. Because it means defending the people she loves, she agrees to play the part of the target. In all circumstances, she prioritizes the team.
Being one of the new ones here,
Yeah.
but you're someone who likes to bring the energy,
Yeah.
whether we just saw what we saw, but regardless, can you just talk about that?
Yeah, I think that's just who I am. It's my personality. I'm the glue to it. We kind of have a weird age gap. We have some oldies on the team. We have some young bucks, and I'm kind of the tweener is what they call me. And so it's just trying to make everyone match and make sure we're all just having good vibes, right? The seasons has a bunch of highs and lows, and so just trying to keep a level head on everyone. But I also think that we get to play basketball for a living, and that's super fun. So sometimes you just need a good perspective of like, hey, we're in the grind right now, and it feels hard, but at the end of the day, we get to dribble a ball for a living, so we got to be grateful for that.
Sophie explained why she is the lifeblood of this Fever team in just 6 words. It's not merely a declaration that I support my teammates, it's a pledge, it's a dedication. It has all the qualities you need in a leader and all the qualities you desire in a colleague. When Caitlin Clark is well again, she will rejoin a group of people who know how to stand up for one another. When Caitlin Clark returns, Sophie Cunningham's 6 words serve as a reminder that athletes who give their all for one another are the foundation of winning teams. There will be no stopping this Fever team. Instead of punishing players like Sophie with biased officiating, the league should defend them because they contribute heart and integrity to the game. Although this defeat was painful, it demonstrated the kind of character that will propel them to their first championship when their hero returns, fit and prepared to rule. With this setback, the Fever's record fell to 9 wins and 9 losses, although they are still in the running for a postseason berth. This team is prepared to battle, and reports indicate Clark might make a comeback as early as Wednesday against the Golden State Falcons. If you're in favor of Sophie and the Fever, please leave a comment below. Turn on all notifications, like and subscribe to ensure you don't miss anything. After you click the video on the screen, we'll meet you in the following